super excited to be recording on a late on a Saturday night with Erica Shultz. Erica, I'll do a proper introduction, but just thank you so much for joining me tonight.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So, if in case, on the off chance anybody doesn't know, Erica, you are the co-host of Unsung Horrors, which is probably one of the my favorite podcasts. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm a minimalist, so this is one of
Same.
three that I actively listen to,
Okay.
and it's fantastic. Anybody should check it out. Love to get into what it is and why it's great here in just a second. But I think very, recently published a book, and I'm going to hold it up because I want to make sure I get all the titles right. So, The Sweetest Taboo, an unapologetic guide to child kills in film. Self-published, correct?
Correct. Yes. No one would touch it.
I don't know why.
Yeah,
Um,
go figure.
and it's a fantastic read. As you know, I just got it in and I was flipping through it the last few days. It's a reference guide for children death in films. So I want to get into how you structured it, and I want to get into a lot of that content. But just right out of the gate, you're doing some amazing work, and I hope you hear that often. But between the podcasting and the writing and the DVD, well, Blu-ray commentaries and everything you're doing, just thank you. You're doing really good work.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't hear it very often, so it is nice to hear.
Yeah, I always enjoy when you hear. I think if just in case again anybody hasn't heard you, my favorite thing about whenever you write or talk or critique, there's always a humor behind it, which I think I really appreciate. You bring a lot of humor into what you do.
I try. I mean, I don't have much of a filter, so sometimes things just pour out of my brain, and I have to think about it after and say, wait, was that inappropriate? I mean, nothing like offend, like I would, never anything to like
Sure.
offend any like particular group of people, but like for example, one of the booklet essays I wrote for a vinegar syndrome release for the horrible Dr. Hitchcock
Hmm.
was about necrophilia in Italian horror films. And I was like, I'm going to have fun with this because I
Yeah.
actually found this um uh what is it called? Anyway, I found this chart
Okay.
of like basically like a grading scale of necrophilia. It was like class one, class two, class three, class four. So I was
Oh,
like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna take all these Italian horror films that have necrophilia in them and rate them on like what kind of scale of necrophilia is this? And like I had a lot
that's
of fun
actually
with
amazing.
it, because it's like I think you have to kind of bring something new and different to these. I'm not going to write about, Barbara Steele or like the gothic horror element because everyone knows that. Someone
Sure, sure,
else is going
sure.
to write about it. Who's ever doing the commentary is going to write about that.
Sure.
I want to write about necrophilia and I want to have fun with it. So yeah, I do like to bring humor to morbid topics, I guess you
Bring
could
in the
say.
bring in the Philly into necrophilia. So to speak. Um, that's fantastic. And you reside in Austin, Texas, which is also a very rare um, comparison that I don't typically have with people on the podcast.
Yeah. Hey neighbor, we're actually waving to each other, folks,
That's
like from
right, through the
across town
window.
right now. Heyo.
That's awesome. And Austin has an interesting film scene. I don't think it gets a lot of love nationally. I don't think a lot of people quite understand what's going on here, but there's a lot of like talent and especially writing. There's a lot of screenwriters that live here and people that are engaged in TV, especially. It's got a pretty thriving scene, actually.
I think so too. I think people just automatically go, New York, LA, Chicago, and like that's it. But for me, a big part of the film scene here is the film culture and the fact that we have yes, Alamo Drafthouse, but we also have multiple other things going on, and like AFS or Austin Film
Hmm.
Society, Bat City Cinema, which is run by Ivan Paycheff of AGFA. He's the head
Hmm.
archivist there. He does like 16 millimeter screenings. Um, we have Blue Starlight Drive-In. We have Hyperreal Film Club. We have so much film culture around here, and there's so many talented people just in this city alone that are not just programming great stuff here, but who are also contributing to the bigger, the bigger culture, like Blu-ray releases.
Yeah,
At least three people that work at Austin Film Society contributed to the Black Emmanuel set from
that's
Severin.
awesome.
And, Laird, who runs Weird Wednesday now
Yeah,
at Alamo Draft House, he's doing amazing stuff. Joe Ziemba and Annie Choi from Bleeding Skull, they're doing Terror Tuesdays, both here and in New York. I mean, it's just that was a big reason why I moved here because I'm originally from California
okay.
and I was looking for a place that this was before realized just how hot it got here during the summer. Now I'm miserable and I want to
Yeah,
leave.
especially right
Um,
now.
oh my God, I hate it so much. I'm pale and I hate the sun. Um, but the film culture here was a big reason why I wanted to move.
Yeah,
I came out to visit a few times and I went to Alamo Draft House and I was like, oh my God, this is
yeah.
awesome. And like, people don't talk in movies here. And like, they had the Austin Film Society and they had two video stores at the time
Yeah,
that I moved
yeah.
here. And I was like, holy shit, fuck yeah, I'm moving here. And we don't have the video. Well, we have one video store sort of reopen.
Yeah,
So
have you been to that? Because it's called We Love Video, is that right?
Right. Yeah. It used to be I Love Video. Now it's We Love
Yeah.
Video. It's a much smaller
Okay.
place, but they still have a good selection there. I volunteered for a bit to do inventory with them when they were
Oh, cool.
first like getting going. And I've actually done a screening there. They have a
Oh, cool.
screening room in the back of the store. And I did The Stepfather on Father's Day just last month. Um,
That's awesome.
that was fun. And
Yeah.
yeah, there's great people running it. They're doing, I think they're doing really well. They just hit their year anniversary. And it's nice having that here.
Yeah.
And only recently, and I recently within like the last few years, I've really been taking advantage of the Austin Public Library system because they have a banging selection of movies.
It's so
Like
good.
I, and the fact that like, I don't know exactly how many branches they have in Austin proper, let's say 10. If
Hmm.
there's two within walking distance of where I live, and if the movie that I want is at one that's in North Austin, I can place a hold on it to pick up at my branch down the street from me. And it's free. It's insane to me.
I
I'm like,
know.
this is the greatest thing ever.
I know. Yeah, it's amazing. And yeah, then they have a broader program through Texas as well, where you even have access to anything in Texas. Sometimes you have to wait a little bit longer, but yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
That's what a fantastic introduction to Austin. I haven't done that. We've been doing this for 3 years now, and I haven't done that before, so I'm so glad we got to go here.
Yeah.
Just a quick story, then we'll get to you. I moved to Austin in 2005, and I just moved on my buddy's couch and was looking for a job because I graduated college and didn't want to be in Dallas. So I
Yeah.
just came down here, and I had 3 months it took me to get a job, and I went through. At that time, did you ever get to go to the proper I Love Video on airport? Like okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, they kind of had like a balcony sort of area,
Hmm.
like a mezzanine kind of area.
Yeah.
And when you went up there, they had they organized by director.
Yeah.
And I saw everything by Pedro Almodovar, and I got to do one more, maybe Fellini or somebody. I got to do two like full
Oh,
director
wow.
runs before I got a job. And I was just, they had, my roommates were making fun of me because every 10th movie you got one free.
Yeah.
And I was hitting those like at least once a week. And they were like, what the hell is wrong with you?
That's
I was just,
awesome.
this is amazing. Anyways, yeah, no, it's a really thriving scene here. So,
Yeah.
well, I'm glad that you moved here, and I'm glad that Austin's kept you. So,
So far.
um,
This
so
heat's gonna get me out of here though. I swear to fucking God. It's the
well,
worst.
California has their own problems though, because you have power grid issues out there, right? So you're just losing power half the year. I mean, not half the year, but
Yeah, I know. Every place has their problems,
yeah.
but also California has Del Taco. So, I mean, there's that. And my friends and family, of course, yeah, whatever, but
In order, Del
in
Taco,
order, yeah, in
friends and
preference of
family.
order. They have coffee bean and tea leaf Del Taco, my friends and family.
That's funny. Um, well, all right. So you have, in my perspective, I'm curious if you agree with this. When I think of Erica Schultz, I think of somebody who's kind of carved out a niche in just knowing and talking and researching and viewing films that most people don't see. Like I kind of feel like you have this sort of interest in carving new paths or, going to places where not a lot of people are going. Um, Maybe that doesn't cut across every genre, but for the most part, a lot of exploitation genre films and horror and just things that are international cinema, right? Is that how you think of yourself, or is that?
I think that's how I think of um, the podcast and Lance is my co-host and
Hmm.
I's relationship because so we started Unsung Horrors in 2020 during the pandemic, and Lance and I had been friends for years and had been going to Terror Tuesday and stuff together. And honestly, it was like mid 2020, and I was like, "Fuck, I miss my friend." I was like, "Lance, you want to start a podcast? I got this idea."
That's
And
awesome.
and then just the idea of just even having the idea of covering films that have fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. I
Hmm.
think having that just sort of spread to other genres and viewings. Like
Hmm.
I didn't, I even when we're doing like we're recording this in June, we just did June exploitation F this movie's challenge where they have different
Hmm.
categories every day. And I try to apply the same principle, not just to horror movies, but digging deep. Like I went on some like William Devane rabbit hole this morning where
That's
I was
awesome.
like, I love him. What else? What haven't I seen from him? And I just went through his whole filmography, started like watch listing a bunch of stuff. I watched one like this afternoon, even called Rub Down, and it's not a porn. It's about a masseuse. It's an erotic thriller,
Nice, nice.
but yeah, I that's part I think that's part of like our brand, like both Lance and I, because he'll bring stuff to the table that like I've never heard of, I've never seen. And I think it also comes from, my personal relationship with my partner, John, who is just an encyclopedia of films and
Yeah,
is in the same has the same type of desires when it comes to watching films,
yeah,
like if he goes to go see something new, he's seeing it just to go to the movies because he likes the experience of
yeah,
going to the movies.
right.
But if I'm like, hey, do you want to watch the seventh Zatoichi movie? He's like, fuck yeah. It's
uh,
so and if I bring up, some random like, oh, I found this Ozploitation movie with, Sam Elliott and whatever, and he's like, yeah, sounds cool, I'm in.
let's do it.
So having a partner that is willing to watch those types of things with you
Yeah,
and who understands that is a big part of that. And then on top of that, having a podcast partner who is pretty much the same. Like, so I have support in two corners for that. But I think the niche that I've carved for myself individually is I'm the go-to when it comes to child kills in film. Like I want to be the person, like if you see one in a film, you think of me.
yeah. No, that so let's transition to the book because that's a perfect segue. There's
Sure.
a lot I still want to talk about on the podcast. I could just talk to you for 2 hours about Unsung Horrors because I've listened to several of those and I love the show. But
Thank you.
okay, so yeah, of course. So you have the idea to not only be the kind of the expert on child kills, but to actually create a compendium of them and a referenceable guide to them.
Yeah.
And so, first of all, it's extremely hard to self-publish a book. So congratulations for doing it.
Thank you. It
Yeah,
is not fun.
yeah. And one thing, I don't know if this is like fair to say, but I wasn't expecting the layout to just look this nice and professional. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't look like a self-published book at all.
I'm glad because that's, I didn't want it to look like that. I once I had Haunt Love on board to do the layout, because I had initially only asked him to do the cover design, and he was like, well, I could give a shot doing the whole layout. And I was like, yes, please. And like it was a learning experience for both of us because like I've never, written a book before. I've written
Sure.
essays and reviews and whatever, but like a book, and I wouldn't say I've written a book. I've written a compendium, like collection of but yeah, just once I had him on board, I was like, okay, So I told him, well, here, look at this book. Here's Lars Nilsson's Warped and Faded. This is your like point of reference. I want it like
Hmm.
this, but your style. And then I even went to Zach Carlson and Lars regarding the book, and I was like, who's your point of contact for like publishing? Because I need to find out the exact paper type that you used and the
Oh
cover and
wow.
everything, like
Uh-huh.
the exact type of paper. So I took that and I had one publisher and like that actually three I finally ended with my third publisher. The first two, those didn't work out. The second one was the most frustrating because we were literally at like, at the finish line and they were like, "Oh, wait, sorry, no, never mind. We can't publish this because of the content." Um,
Uh,
but taking that and having the exact paper type and saying, I want it to look like this, have this thickness to it, have this matte finish to it, have
mhm.
this gloss to it. I don't want this to look self-published. And I think a small part of it was like a reaction to getting so much rejection for this book. And,
Mm.
it wasn't even like I only got a few people. I reached out to I stopped I just stopped at like I think I got to about 20 and I was like, all right, I'm done. Like I
Jeez.
get it. Nobody's gonna fucking do this. And only a handful of them actually got back to me and said, um, no, we're not comfortable doing this, because of the content. A couple, one, no, one got back to me and was like, well, what are your credentials? And I'm like, I have a podcast, it's like, what do I have? Like, and because at that point, I didn't have anything really to speak of as far as Blu-ray contributions or anything like that.
Okay.
Um, I did get a few people who emailed me back and were helpful and pointed me in other directions. Like Zach actually was like, "Hey, reach out to Kayla Janice and see if
Oh,
could get
cool.
published
Hmm.
through Spectacular Optical."
Hmm.
And I knew that was a long shot because I was like, I think I've seen her say that she's just finishing like she's doing like one book and finishing that and that's it.
Okay.
Um, I think it was her cockfighter book. I think that's probably going to be the last one that she does there. But
Okay.
I reached out to her anyway, and I was like, "Hey, Zach told me to reach out. I'm doing this thing," and she was like, "Yeah, no, I'm not doing any more books besides this." But she pointed me to other people. They didn't get back to me. It's fine. Lisa Petrucci from Something Weird Video was
Yeah.
super nice. But she's talked about how she's going to be getting into the publishing game, and so
Hmm.
Zach was like, "Oh, reach out to her," but she's just going to be focused on like something weird content, and I'm like, "Well, mine kind of fits," and
Yeah, it's pretty
I
close.
was like almost begging at that point, and finally I was like, you know what? What's it going to take for me to self-publish? And thankfully, I had a lot of really supportive people who kicked in
Okay.
for the crowdfunding campaign, and that helped a lot. But I did have to dig into my own savings or credit cards um, to get a lot of this to ultimately get it done the way that I wanted to. But I also like I had the confidence that like this is going to look great. This
Yeah.
is going to sell. I'll make my money back and I'll be able to say I told you so to
Good.
somebody.
Good.
I haven't sent that email yet, but it's like I have it drafted. I just haven't sent it to those people yet. But the good thing is like there are other opportunities now that weren't available back then for getting a publisher that,
Okay.
I already do have opportunities for if I do decide to do a reprint, which is a possibility. I haven't decided what I want to do with that yet, since I am almost sold out of the initial run. And
Congrats.
then, or if I even were to do a second volume, because there's definitely enough movies to do a second volume. It's just, do I want to go through this again? And then part of me is like, well, of course you do. You learn so much, and it's going to be so much easier because you fucked up everything the first time. So you'll totally get it right this time. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, selfishly, I hope you write again. I don't know. I'm sure you can cover any topic with the same amount of, diligence, but I think that's see, it's a very DIY story, and I think that even I know it's always better to have a publisher, of course, because they just know these things and they can just do it for you. But
Yeah.
I also get the sense of like you're comfortable in that DIY space. Like you strike me as somebody that just kind of like, all right, let's just go get it done.
Yeah, I don't want to give credit to the company that I work for because like I think like corporate mantras and all that, mission statement bullshit like is stupid, but they have always had one that was, akin to like, figure it out. I
Okay.
had the one of the CEOs who hired me, and this was like 10 years ago. Um, it was my first month or something like that, and I asked him a question, and he looked at me, and he said GFE, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And I go to my coworker, and I was like, "Yeah, I just asked Don this question, and he said GFE," and he was like, "Yeah, Google fucking exists. Go figure it out for yourself." And I was like, "Okay, so like." When you stop asking questions and figure it out
Hmm.
for yourself, and I'm not saying you should never ask questions because then like you're relying on the information that you're finding for yourself and not verifying with anybody,
Sure,
but
sure.
it definitely like put me in that mindset where I was like, okay, if I want my book to look like this, what do I need to do? I need to ask these people like what kind of paper did they
Hmm.
use and like all
Hmm.
these sorts of things. And like all you really have to do is like if you have examples, you can find ways to get to what you want. Because
Yeah.
ultimately, when I mentioned like the second publisher backed out at the last minute, I had to find someone quickly because I was already like so overdue to the backers and I felt so terrible. So I literally went to my bookshelf and I started pulling books off the shelf. I'm like, okay, where did this book get published? And
Jeez.
I pulled Stephen Thrower's Jess Franco book off the shelf. I looked at that. I was like, okay, that was published in Estonia. Okay, Estonia publishers in Estonia or book printers in Estonia. Like start looking at those, start sending messages. The Cannibal Holocaust book, the Rogero Diodato one,
Right.
like that was published in Czech Republic, and that's ultimately how I found my publisher was like searching for book printers in Czech Republic. And the one that I ended up with was fantastic. And so, use what you have around you to find the right answers and find what
Jeez.
you need. And that's what DIY is
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
fucking
it's
figure it
true.
out. You see what you have around you to make something work. And like that's ultimately what I did is like a fucking I remember like when I was a kid, I to find like other bands to listen to, you'd go in like the CDs and like see like, okay, this band thanked
Yeah,
these bands.
yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna go listen to them now. And
that's
it's the
exactly
same
right.
thing. It's like I go to my bookshelf and say, where was this published? And I'll find a publisher there.
That's funny. I was just talking to somebody about that because CDs are kind of making a comeback now,
Hmm.
which is funny. But I was just talking, I mean, like there was no Spotify or even before Napster, right? You would just go. Do you remember? Oh, you grew up in California. I don't know if they had Blockbuster. Do they have Blockbuster Musics out there?
No, not that I don't think
Okay.
so. No.
So Blockbuster was based in Texas, right? So they had all
Okay.
these like weird kind of things they would experiment with.
Yeah.
One of the things used to crack me up. So imagine this from like a losing money perspective, right? They every 13-year-old kid in Dallas could go into a Blockbuster Music, open up any CD in the store and listen to it before they bought it.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they had, they had a pretty good selection. Like I grew up listening to punk and hardcore and like they had a huge section for that.
Yeah.
And so I mean, that was also when punk was kind of big. So anyways, it kind of made sense, I
Sure.
guess. But like, I would just my parents would literally just drop me off in the summer. I'd be there for like 6 hours and I'd buy like four things, but I would just be like
You
taking a
listening to
stack up.
stuff the whole time. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. No,
So
we
there's
had a warehouse video was like the big one in California and Sam
okay.
Goody. But
Oh,
yeah, I
oh.
remember going to warehouse and buying CDs, going to get you had to get in line to get your tickets from Ticketmaster from if I was going to go to a show at the Whiskey a Go Go or
Okay. Nice.
wherever. And I still have all my ticket stubs from that day.
Well,
Those
that's awesome.
days. I can't remember the last time I actually bought something from Ticketmaster. I think that ship has sailed for me.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. Everything's expensive now. There
Mm.
was a people were even talking because NoFX is doing their farewell tour now,
Oh
and
my God, they're still
I know it's
Holy
crazy, right?
shit.
I
Fat
know.
Mike, hang it up. Sorry,
Finally,
bud.
yeah. He finally is, yeah. But those tickets are expensive. But
I bet.
um, okay, there's a point I don't want to. I can tell it's easy to just kind of have a conversation with you. So I don't want to go too far from this one point though, because I
Yeah.
think this is something that I think is unfortunate, and I'm just curious to hear your take on it. Because like for publishers not to publish a book about child death, it just kind of sucks, right? Because it's not like you're sitting there. Like there's a very important point you made, I think, when I was listening to, I think you were on with Sam, right?
Hmm.
And you were talking about how there are some particular child deaths. Like let's say there's a war going on and like children are getting blown up in war. If it's an Italian movie, it's probably funny. But if it's like a Hollywood movie and it's like done for this big dramatic effect, like a lot of those aren't in the book or I forget. Like I'm
Yeah.
probably editorializing slightly, but there's like some deaths that just aren't funny,
Yeah.
right?
There's definitely some exclusions in there because yeah, I wanted the tone of the book to be fun and to be tongue in cheek, and you can't do that with any sort of like serious war dramas or,
Right,
when we're talking about suicide or illness or things like
right.
that. Like, yeah, haha, that kid died of cancer. It's like, I'm not gonna fucking do that, that's terrible. I'm not like that dead inside. So the thing is like, I was pitching this to publishers. I sent out a sample chapter. It was chapter 16, the maximum overkill one. Um, one of the people who got back to me was who ended up being like, yeah, no, we're not comfortable with the content. He's like, I get it, but I don't think I could sell this to everybody else, kind of thing. Um, and he wasn't really a fan of me writing in first person. And I was like, that's a fair criticism, but I think that this type of subject matter needs to be written in first person because I think you need to insert yourself into it and have, in order for it to really be funny. Like if you take yourself out of it and you're just writing in third person, you can't really have that kind of humor about it. And I didn't want this to be um
That's a really interesting point. No, keep going. I'm just process. That's a fascinating point.
Yeah, it's just I didn't want it to be just about the movies because I know it is still a heavy topic and there are films in there that actually did kind of get to me. And so not every film has a write-up about the film itself. Like I put some personal stories in there. Like my mom hasn't gotten into it yet. My mom has a copy of the book, but my write up about Frankenstein, she's gonna be fucking mortified when she reads what I did when I was a child. Um, my write up about Hereditary is about my dog Boo
Hmm.
Boo sticking her head out the window.
Mm,
My write up about the movie Us was about going to summer camp and finding a doppelganger and like things like that. So I'm giving the reader a break. And
yeah,
so I couldn't do that if I was writing it in third person. And so I said, thank you for your feedback. I disagree. And I'm
yeah.
going to do it this way. And he ended up, I probably, if I went with that publisher, I probably would have had to rewrite it completely and it
Mm,
just wouldn't have been the same. And so
no,
getting back to the DIY thing, I think when you're able to do that, you have so much more freedom.
yeah.
There's a lot of risk in that too. Like I had to buy insurance for myself in case somebody decides to sue me for something that I wrote. I'm like, okay.
Wow.
Um, but like I was willing to take that risk and say, no, I believe in what I'm doing. I'm
Yeah.
going to do it this way. And I think I'm right. And if anyone besides that one person at that publishing company has had any, you know, constructive criticism or negative feedback, I haven't heard it yet. So I think I made the right choice.
I never would have thought about it in that way. But like, this is probably not the perfect example, but Funny Games, the original Funny Games, is so effective because they look at the camera and they bring you in,
Yeah.
and they make you come to terms with the fact that like you're now like taking part in this with them.
Hmm.
And as the audience member, you're like, no, 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 no. I don't want like I
Yeah.
want to be detached from this.
Yeah.
but they keep laughing and like making light of it and like having fun with what they're doing, and the things they're doing on screen are so horrific that like it creates this really strong emotional reaction to the movie. And I know some people think it's overkill and hate funny games, so I think it's a fair critique. But like I love that movie, and like that's the big reason for it is because it's kind of, Hanukkah's basically saying like no, 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 like you don't get a pass. I'm not just going to show you like horrific stuff. Like you're a part of it. Like
Yeah.
you're right. And I think that's I'm saying it's not a perfect analogy because your book is lighter than Funny Games is. He's more preaching, I guess. He's more trying to make a point. But it's a fascinating thing to be like we're not necessarily reading a reference book on child death. We're reading it through the lens of your experience with this. And so you get, then all of a sudden it becomes personal. And we feel like we're getting to know you almost as we read the book, which adds another layer to it.
Yeah. And I put more of myself into that than I am normally comfortable with
Okay.
sharing, but there
Uh-huh.
was also like some points where I was like, this story makes sense to share. So
Yeah.
I'm going to share it. And I agree 100% about funny games. It's like you he's bringing you in as a participant, and like I'm not nearly any sort I'm not I would never even try to compare myself to the masterwork of Haneke, but I do think that I did want that to happen. I wanted you guys, the reader, to like to have fun with this and like be part of it. And I wanted you to feel a little bit guilty for laughing at some of these really fucked up things that happen because I
Yeah.
genuinely enjoy them. Like, and I don't expect everyone to. I know it's my thing. It's not everyone's. That's fine. But if you're going to enjoy it, I'm going to make you feel a little bit guilty about that. I'm going to make you laugh at the
Yeah.
kid who got decapitated in front of his mom. I am.
But this is the thing that I wish, we have lost. So maybe this is because, growing up in a different era, I don't know. But I remember very strongly growing up with nuance in kind of any discussion. And like I remember growing up in an environment where like you got to understand the intent of somebody and factored that into how you viewed what they were saying.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the jokes and a lot of the way that we spoke and a lot of the way that I kind of learned to read and like the movies that I got into and the books that I got into, like they were things that on the surface people didn't understand. Like the first time I said I like Solo, I had to think about, okay, how am I going to explain this?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
so there's a process to kind of get to bringing that nuance into the discussion and being able to separate. Like, I'm not happy of the content in Solo, but like if you understand the metaphor, it's a powerful movie,
Right.
right? And yeah, like it's extreme, but like that's very, very intentional. Like he absolutely is trying to do that, right?
Yeah.
And so I think I don't know. I really like what you're saying because it just makes me feel like you've kind of worked through like the nuance of that, which is rare, and I want to celebrate that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I do think that, and not to, be like, get off my lawn, old man yells at cloud, but like there's a certain cutoff age where the literacy takes a huge drop off. And not just
Hmm.
media literacy, but like understanding author's intention, point of view, all those
Yeah.
sorts of things that, we learned in school. And kids are learning everything from TikTok now. And it's a different type of literacy. Like they can
Hmm.
tell you all these things about like things that I don't care about. I can't even list them because I don't know. I'm not on TikTok. I don't know what they're doing over there. But like that's that's the thing is like I knew who my audience was for this.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like this isn't for that younger generation, but I know that the audience for this, like if someone like if I had to put that in my pitch, I had to say who's
Yeah.
the target audience for this. I'll be, and I would say specifically film fans this age and up.
Interesting.
Um, and like and so far like and I what I've seen, I think that's been mostly true. I don't want to assume anyone's ages, but like I don't think there's there's like one kid, Jake, who's in like he's a friend of ours. He's in my boyfriend's film club, and I think he's young. He's like, early 20s, but he's
Okay.
very open-minded about film. Like you show him something new and he wants to talk about it and he's really
Hmm.
engaged with it. And so he's a smart critical thinker.
Hmm.
So, yes, the book is for you too. But for the most part, it's for that generation who not only knows most of these films or is at least open to saying, "Oh, I've never seen that, Duccio Tessari movie. I'll watch that."
Hmm.
But also those who are literate, both like media literate and literary literate.
You know, it's funny you say that. So there was a book that I read, and I can't remember the exact title. It was the most pretentious thing I've ever read in my life. But the premise of the book was that this was written in the early 2000s, so I assume this author's probably having a heart attack right now. But the whole premise of the book was that we have lost our ability to critically think and critically read. Um, and a sentence like that is typically applied to pretentious things. But there's another side of that, which is actually where a lot of humor comes from, I think. And that's one thing I love about the book, is Sweetest Taboo, is that, there is a lot of humor in there, first of all, and some of it's self-deprecating for sure.
Hmm.
But some of it is just humor in the absurd. Like some of the deaths are just absurd and
Yeah.
funny because there's no other real way to react to that.
Yeah. It's like if you can't laugh at a child doing a swan dive into a crocodile's mouth, who are you as a person? You need to rethink your choices in life if you don't think that's funny.
Yeah, exactly. Oh shit, that's
That's
hilarious.
crocodile fury for anyone interested.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree. Like there are certain moments that hit in a movie. Like when this is gonna seem like a tangent, but I'll come right back to the point. So when I remember when I was going through Fellini's, I did every one of his movies maybe about 3 years ago. And a lot of them were like typical sort of studio movies with a little bit of a Fellini touch and some interesting characters. And then he has some, like, I don't know, have you ever seen Casanova by chance?
No, no, I haven't seen that one yet.
Okay,
No.
I would recommend it. It
Okay.
has Donald Sutherland wearing a crown with candles coming out of it, charging after somebody like a maniac trying to have sex with them.
That's amazing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's a movie that nobody ever talks about as far as being batshit crazy, but it is unhinged. And like I was like, wait a minute. Like I love this. And and like, I think there's a point where there's so many movies out there that as we kind of just go through them, there's something that happens where the only reaction, I think it kind of separates an audience in my mind a little bit. Like you either watch Casanova or Crocodile Fury, see something that's just absurd happening on screen, and you either kind of react one or two ways. You're either like, I want more of that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Or you're like, that's so dumb. Like, I hate this, right?
Yeah.
And I think the book is written for the former, right?
Yeah, but it definitely does have like, that's so dumb, I hate this, but that still sparks a reaction in
True.
me where I'm like, okay, this was awful and here's why, and I don't ever want to watch it again. 1 star for the movie, depending on the child kill, maybe it's 2 stars. We'll see. But yeah, there for sure, it's definitely there's so there's 1,200 roughly movies in the book. Not all of them have a capsule review. There's sidebars in there.
Hmm.
The only about 700 movies actually have a write-up. There's just over 400 or so in the appendix, and the majority of those are films where like I watched it, a kid dies, and I had nothing to say about either. The majority. There are plenty in there that I just like I was short on time and I was like, I don't have time to do a write up for it. It needs to be in the book. So I don't,
Hmm.
I can avoid some of the keyboard warriors being like, you didn't include blah, blah in the book. And I'd be like, of course, dickhead. Um, and so, yeah, some of those types of movies are in the appendix, movies that I look at now and I'm like, oh, I know what I would have written about now, but it's too late. But Maybe not. Maybe there'll be a revised edition. Who knows?
I
But
mean, to be fair, you wrote something about 700 movies. Like, that's
this
not
is
nothing.
true. Yeah, all by myself too. Like, I mean, you
That's
look at
crazy.
something like Zach Carlson and Brian Connolly's Punks on Film
Hmm.
book where they had a bunch of other people, like they did a shit ton of work. I'm not gonna downgrade that, but they had other people who were doing reviews in there for them too and helping them
Mm.
out with that. And same thing with Lars Nilsson's book Warped and Faded. Like other people contributed the write-ups in there too. And it's like this is just me, but and that's a big reason kind of getting back to why I'm in it so much is because like, well, it's just me. So, and here's my experience with these movies. Here's another Eli Roth movie that I fucking hated. And oh, here's a Ty West movie that Eli Roth produced, and guess what? I hated it. And like, so it lets me be myself, and it allows there to be this through line because not only by reading this book will you discover that yes, I hate Eli Roth and every film that he's ever made, but I also hate Pepsi. I wrote about that in at least 5 or 6 reviews about how much I hate Pepsi.
Like the taste or like the company?
The taste, yeah. Like
Yeah.
like the drink itself. Like I don't know anything about the company. I'm sure they're as evil as every other corporation is, but
Well,
like
nobody tops Nestle Water as far as being an evil corporation, but have you heard some of those stories?
no.
Oh, I won't get into it because I work
Okay.
in a tech company that sells for all that. But
Oh, okay.
if you want to have some fun, go read about Nestle Water lawsuits. There's a whole
Oh boy.
that's a wild read.
Okay.
It's honestly it's like Bond level villainy that they're just kind of like, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's wild.
Wow.
Um, yeah. How do we start talking about all this? Oh, you hate Eli Roth.
I do.
Um, yeah, well, that's an interesting discussion. Is it just the way he makes movies you hate, or you hate the person?
Both,
Okay,
actually.
okay, yeah. Because I know he's easy to hate as a person.
Yeah. I don't care for his he's one of those people where like I understand that he's a fan and like I'll give it to him. He probably has like good taste in movies, but his attempt at recreating that just comes off as like frat bro horror and I just can't. Like it's just disgusting to me.
I
Like he doesn't know how to do exploitation
that's right.
tasteful, like not even tastefully, because like there's Mondo movies, like there's plenty of exploitation movies that aren't tasteful, but it's like he's his time that time is past. Like you can't make a movie like that.
Right.
I
Yeah.
just I
There's a I don't hate's probably a strong word, but I have a strong distaste for Edgar Wright movies, and I get a lot of shit for that because
did you? I don't like his movies either.
thank you. Thank you. It's
I
almost like you can't say it right.
Oh my God. Last night in Soho was like the secret screening at Fantastic Fest a few years ago. I was so fucking mad. I was
It's not
like,
that good.
it's not. Everyone thinks it's so fucking great. And I was
Yeah.
like, you guys don't see the twist here? Are you fucking kidding me? Get the fuck out of here. And is
I, s-
yeah, okay. So yeah, I'm same. I'm with you.
I
I don't
saw
care
it
for it.
way after it came out because I wasn't interested. And but everyone's like, no, you gotta see it. It's like amazing, you know? I was like,
Mm-mm.
yeah, I mean, obviously the gentleman has seen some jolly in his life, but like,
Sure.
it's not
Oh my
great.
God, the people who were calling it a Jalo. I was so mad. I was like, are you high?
Not even close.
Oh my God.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
We should do another one where we just list popular directors that we hate. That's funny. Um,
Yes.
I get a lot of shit for that. Um, okay, so one of the questions I had, and I think this has been a good introduction to you, which by extension is a good introduction to the book since you're, first person. But what were the things that, like one of the first questions I had, and maybe this is kind of ties into a broader question, but like I would not expect to see a lot of child death in like Lifetime movies, for example. But was there anything that you were kind of surprised at as you were going through this of like, wow, Lifetime movies actually have a lot of or I don't know, like is there anything like that where you were just like I totally, not expecting to find it in this area?
Um, yeah, I think when it's not necessarily like the type of movie that were surprises to me, but the extremity of the kills in more mainstream movies that I
Okay.
thought was kind of like, wow, I wouldn't expect that in that movie. Like
Uh-huh.
I would expect that in, a Fulci movie or some,
Right.
something like that.
Right.
There's like a perfect example is Dead Calm, the movie with Sam Neill and Nicole
Okay.
Kidman and Billy Zane, and it's horror on a boat, basically. And it's
Okay.
this thriller, and the whole reason that Nicole Kidman and Sam Neill go on this sailing trip is because their son died in the beginning, and
Okay.
the car accident is insane. Like the kid is in the back seat, and I think he unbuckles his seatbelt or something like that, and she brakes too hard, and you see the kid get fucking launched
Oh shit.
through the windshield like
Oh
hard,
shit.
and I was like, oh my god, this is in this movie.
They really went for it.
Yeah. So it's more stuff like that where um there's plenty of like genre filmmakers who will do something pretty extreme, and that's not surprising. But when you see something by Philip Noyce in a movie that like my mom would go see, I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
this is in this movie? Okay, I think that was a surprising thing. But after a while, I just learned, when someone would ping me and say like Erica, dead kid in this, and I'd be like, oh fuck, all right, guess I'm gonna watch this movie now. And um, so no, no, I think I got to the point where like really nothing surprised me except like every now and then just the extremity of the kill itself in something more mainstream.
and I'm sorry I don't know the answer to this question, but do you have much animation in the book?
No animation.
Okay. Doesn't
That
count.
was one of the exclusions. So war movies, suicides, animated films, biopics,
Okay.
um, film. Oh my God, I'm sorry if you can hear my foster kittens like howling in the background. Okay,
No,
good.
I think we're good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, there's a lot of based on true stories, and you see that so much. And like, if it's one where like they actually kept the name of the characters in
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
for the
Mm-hmm.
film, then I'm like, okay, that's true story. I'm not going to do it. Like, there's a Farrah Fawcett movie, Small Sacrifices. They kept her name, or at least close to it, but it was exactly like what happened when
Okay.
this mother killed her children. And I was like, okay, that's not going in the book.
Okay.
Actually, I think I mentioned it in the intro specifically, but like I
Yeah, yeah.
didn't put it like as a write up in there. So the animated ones, I was like, no, I'm because, and I think a big part of that was because like I don't like anime. And so I was like, I don't want to have to go down that road for this. Um, so
We're the
no,
same person a little bit. I get shit for that too. I
I
was
just don't like it. I'm sorry, people. I'm happy for you if you do, but it's just not my bag.
so I had a long discussion just last night. I do a weekly film club on Reddit
Hmm.
that's Criterion related, funny enough, but um, things that are on the Criterion channel, basically, we just do a discussion on it.
Yeah.
But we were just talking about this last night because I was just basically I made a statement of like it's just not for me. Like I'm old enough now to know that like I'm just gonna not like anime, and so they broke down the like different kinds of anime, and I realized that I guess there's some Japanese animated movies that I'm fine with, but it's the stuff where it's like sexualizing these like 10-year-old looking girls and they're all like "Ah, la, la, la," la," and like the big
Yeah.
eyes and like that's I just can't like I immediately lose interest. I'm just like I don't want to be here. Like I hate
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
What's
I'm
going on?
zero interest in any of it. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some wonderful animated films that like I'll just never see because I'm just like, no, I'm allergic to that. I'm good. Thanks.
Well, I mean, there's this list that I every time I write a review, I reference They Shoot Pictures. Have you ever heard about this list?
No.
So it's this guy in Australia. He got 13,000 critics top 10 lists. So he's just like anybody who's a critic and put out the top 10 list. He ranked all of them, right? And
Hmm.
there's 22,000 movies that have been rated as a top 10 by some director.
Wow.
Some critic, excuse me.
Hmm.
I'm sure there's filmmakers as part of that. So like if you think about that, like there's 22,000 movies. Like I was doing the math on that. Like I won't even make it through that list in my lifetime.
No.
right? Let
Yeah.
alone there's a lot of stuff I watch that's not even on there. But like, so anyways, there's just you have to kind of know what you're gonna watch and what you're not gonna watch, right? I mean, you can't.
Yeah, I think a big part of so I'm 45 and I've done the math of like how many years I have left. Like
Uh-huh.
roughly. I know like I don't want to live past a certain age
Yeah.
because like I've seen my grandparents and that's just not
Yeah.
happening to me. So um I give myself another like 30 years, right? And so
Okay.
doing the math of how many movies I have left in me to watch, I have to like choose wisely. And no, I don't want to watch your fucking anime movie. No matter how much you're like, Erica, there's dead kids, there's gore, there's no. I have only so many movies left in my lifetime that I can watch while I still have like a functioning brain.
That's not
And I
gonna
will
be one
not
of
watch
them.
the anime.
Maybe you can make a list of ones that you're gonna watch if you make it past 75, and you
There
can
you
be like,
go. I will
fine.
watch your tentacle porn movie when I am 76 and if I still have a high functioning brain and dementia has not eaten me alive yet. So
That's
there.
funny. Speaking of ways to watch movies in 30 years, are you a collector of physical media as well?
Yeah. Both me and my partner are. Yeah.
That's cool. So how do
We have
you
to
do
make
it?
decisions about what we're going to you so right now we are subscribers to Vinegar Syndrome.
Nice.
And I'm, we're pretty frugal though outside of that. And I'm not even, I hope no one from Vinegar Syndrome's listening. Well, I do for you. But for me, I don't know if I'm gonna renew next year because I think like I'd rather pick and choose rather than have other people curate for me at this point. Um, so I don't know. But um I think we have a really eclectic collection. It's everything from SOV to film noir and, everything in between. And we just, I don't know. We kind of have to like make decisions together about what to buy. Like it's not like I couldn't go and buy something without consulting him, but when we're making like bigger choices, like the Criterion sales going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
like I made the mistake of going to Barnes and Noble by myself. And then I was like, wait, I don't know what we have on our shelf. John has our shelf memorized. I don't, but so I walked around and I was like, I think we have this, but I don't know. And so I just went home and like shelf in view actually made some purchases. So
Uh-huh.
um I think we have a really just good mix of stuff. So if I want to watch, In a Lonely Place, I've got
Mm-hmm.
that. Or if I want to watch a Sergio Martina movie, I've got that. So to me, it's about not having a video store because we could never have that many, but just having enough variety to suit any type of mood because I'm very mood based when it comes to watching something.
100%. Me too, yeah.
Um, Sometimes I have to, I watch stuff because I have to, because podcast homework or something
Mm-hmm.
else, which is fine. And like I can put my brain in that mode. But like when I have nothing, I'm like, what did I watch today? I watched a movie called Rub Down, some like, random TV sex thriller movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched um I'm gonna mispronounce it's like Shinobi something. It was the Radiance Ninja three
Oh
movie
yeah.
set that
Mm-hmm.
came
Mm-hmm.
out. And I watched the first one in that. So it was a very, very different movies. And but like I was in the mood for one or the other. So like, yeah.
I don't know. I feel like for me, like there's so many movies I have to watch every week. Um, for podcasts and also for the film club and then also for just my dumbass saying that I'm gonna try to watch a one Criterion movie a week and write about it. Just stuff like that.
Yeah.
To where when I get a chance to not have to watch something, I'm just like, I just want to. You typically it's sinking into like a genre film. Like usually it's an Italian genre film, but or Japanese. Those are like the two go-tos. But
Yeah.
I just kind of go with it because I've seen a lot of art house already this week, and like I just need something to kind of relax to.
Yeah.
So I
I don't
totally
watch
get that.
Do you watch any TV shows? I watch zero.
No, and no one ever understands that. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know how. Like I would binge the hell out of something if I got into it. So
Yeah.
I can't even start it.
Yeah. I think the only thing that I watch TV wise is old episodes of Columbo. Like that's pretty much it.
Oh God. I can't. That's like Columbo is like the best thing ever. Peter Falk is such an amazing
I
guy.
know. He's so good. And like every time John and I will watch any kind of like murder mystery movie, we'll like come up with some like Columbo scenario where like he pops in and like he's like, yeah,
One
just
more
one
thing.
more thing.
Yeah, he was the best. Have you ever seen Mikey and Nikki?
No.
Anyways, add it to your watch list at some point.
Okay.
It's him acting with John Cassavetes in a movie directed by um, Elaine May, I believe. I think
Oh,
I got
okay.
that right.
Okay.
It's really good. It's good. He's just such a good actor. He's so endearing, and
Yeah.
it's more dramatic then. But anyways, um, okay. So Erica, as it's obvious, you are someone who can talk about film at ease and go in any direction. Just to make sure people don't lose sight of this, they should absolutely go to Unsung Horrors. I do want to talk about this a little bit before we end up.
Yeah, sure.
If they wanted to buy your book, what's the place where the most money goes into your pocket?
Well, it's not about the money. Like I don't want to create barriers for anyone to get it, but the all of the retailers that I sold books to wholesale have all sold out, and I have less than 100 left, and I'm just selling those myself. So literally
Okay.
just directly from me, you can buy it PayPal or credit card on the site. I am going to be at two screenings in August,
Okay.
one in New York and one in Philadelphia. The New York one hasn't been announced yet, but that's going to be Friday, August 23rd. So you can save the date and more to come soon.
Okay.
Saturday, August 24th, I'll be at Philomoka screening The Untold Story.
No
Um,
way. That's
and I will
awesome.
have books there for sale, like with me. Like I've set aside, oh shit. I've set aside copies for those specifically. So
Okay.
I'll have some of those with me. But for now, online, you can buy directly, just buy it directly from me on my janky little site where I have like one product for sale.
Well, congratulations for almost selling out of your first run of your first book. That's
Thank
amazing.
you. Yeah,
Probably very gratifying too, I imagine.
it is. It's I'm excited to get the rest of my living room back though. There's still like this corner of it that's like piled with books and I would very much like to get rid of those.
We have 6 months left for spring cleaning, so let's see if we can get those sold before you have to do some spring cleaning.
Yeah.
Um, so everybody go check out the web. What is the website, by the way, to send people there?
It's Sweetest Taboo, Big Cartel. If you just go to my profile on Instagram,
Okay.
Hex Massacre, it's linked right there. I'm still on fucking Twitter. I swear to God, I'm gonna get off Twitter as soon as like the books sell out. Just like that's another reason. Please buy a book so I can get off Twitter. Help Erica get off Twitter. Um, so yeah, you can just go to the profile on Instagram. And honestly, if you just search for the Sweetest Taboo book, you'll see the Big Cartel site pop up in one of the
Okay.
first results in
I'll
Google.
I'll link it for everyone in the description just to make it easy.
Thank you.
Um, just as a epilogue, then I have to at least talk about Unsung Horrors for a little bit
Thank you.
because I am a little bit of a completionist, and when I say a little bit, I'm probably overly obsessive about it. So whenever I learn about something, I have to go to episode one. And if I remember right, it's Bloodbath. Is that right?
Yeah, we had an intro episode like, hey, here's our taste, but
Hmm.
the first episode, the first movie we covered was Bloodbath.
I remember feeling like, okay, I found my tribe because Arrow had put out a copy of that, I believe.
Hmm.
And I just by coincidence had seen it a few months before I found the show. And I think the thing that jumps out, if anybody's looking for another podcast, I'm going to make a pitch for y'all because I think the thing that jumps out is not only do you go into the film and the history of it and like you try to do some research and bring that into the discussion for sure, but I think I leave every episode of your show with a sense of if I want to go watch that movie or not. Like you give enough of your own sort of personality, like you bring because you bring your own personality into it. I kind of filter that through my lens, and I'm like, okay, I think I would probably like that, so I'll go watch it, or like,
Yeah.
and now over time, I just try to watch something before I listen to your show, so I can you can just laugh with you and stuff. But I think it's one of the few podcasts where there's not a lot of um, like there's this weird thing in podcasting where the shows that don't have a lot of pretense can sometimes be a little too casual and maybe not be informative
Yeah.
or helpful.
Yeah.
But then the shows that are informative and helpful sometimes are either boring or kind of pretentious a little bit. And like, I think y'all's fits in like a really sweet spot where you're all very human and make like very engaging when you talk about these movies and really bring them to life.
Thank you. Yeah, we try to be, especially because, we are covering mostly movies that other podcasts aren't. And, most horror movie podcasts are like covering the latest thing that just hit streaming or
Right.
Shutter, or they're covering the classics. And it's like, I have nothing new to contribute to the discourse on Halloween 3. I love that movie with all my heart. It's a 5-star movie. I would never do a podcast episode on it though. I'm like, I have nothing else to say about it.
Mm.
Um, and what I do have to say about it's in the book. So there. But like, yeah, we try to come from a place of love with it because these movies aren't most of them aren't getting that in the first place.
Yeah.
So but we also want to like do our homework and make sure we're giving it the respect it deserves, and talking about the cast and crew, and also other films related to that. And I think
Right.
that's become one of my favorite parts of the podcast is the sort of peripheral watching that we're doing for the episode, because like, oh my god, we did Lance is Lance is the most positive person on the planet. Like, he's the nicest guy. It makes me fucking sick sometimes. But like, he'll pick a movie, and he'll just be the champion for it. And so he
That's awesome.
picked this movie Blood-Sucking Pharaohs in Pittsburgh, and I have never found another person on this planet who likes that movie, but Lance will defend that movie. um but then he picked another movie that had Oliver Reed in it called Dr. Heckle and Mr. Hype. This is a terrible movie. Again, another one that nobody else likes. And even Lance was like, yeah, I know it's not great, but it has these things in it, and here's what's good about it. But the good part about that was like all the side watches that I got to do.
Mm.
And I got to do like, watch a bunch of Oliver Reed movies that I'd never seen before. So even if it's a movie that I'm like mad at Lance for picking, because we take turns every other episode,
Yeah.
at least I got something out of that. So
That's
that's
fair.
really been one of my favorite parts. I think the other part is like, I think we have really great listeners. And I know that sounds like cheesy, and like a lot of like podcasts can say that, like, oh, we love our listeners. And it's like, I legitimately like feel like a lot of our listeners are our friends, not just because of the Discord, but so every October we do a challenge that's kind of similar to Junesploitation, where every day is a different category. And I know there's tons of this during October with like horror movie podcasts, and everyone's
Hmm.
doing their lists and whatever, and 31 Days of Halloween, whatever. Um, but we do ours for charity, and it's called Horror Gives Back. And we are like, hey, we know times are tough, but if you can participate, please do donate $1 or more per horror movie that you watch in October. And every year we've been able to donate more and more money. And we do it for Best Friends Animal Societies because everyone loves animals. So I'm like,
Sure.
get that in there. And like last year we raised $2,500. And I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
our listeners are fucking amazing. So
That's awesome.
yeah, and I've just made so many great friends through this. Like, we're both friends with Ryan from Disconnected, and
Yep.
like, he's another one of the more, most positive people on the planet. That's super annoying. God damn it, Ryan.
He's the best. He's legitimately one of the most wholesome people alive.
Seriously, he's like every movie
Every,
is someone's favorite movie, and I was like, really, Ryan, really? I'll
yeah,
test you on that.
he's gonna die with that mantra though.
He's gonna
He
die on
won't
that
budge.
hill. You gotta love him
Hmm.
for it though.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I'm glad he got a shout out. Erica, I hope people find Unsung Horrors. I hope people buy your book. I hope you get a second pressing of the book so more people can buy it. And I hope you keep writing. Um,
Thank you.
is there any particular special features, I guess, for the lack of better way of saying that, that you would want to draw people to? Like any particular ones you're proud of that you would want to make sure people got to check out?
Yeah, one that's like really off brand for me, but I think like shows you like I'm not just here to talk about dead kids and horror movies.
Uh-huh.
I was fortunate enough to do a co-commentary for Fun City Edition's release of Deep in the Heart, which is a Texas-based rape revenge film
Yeah.
that's really excellent. I think it hits really hard. It's made 40 years ago, but still super relevant today. Um, I have a couple of things coming up that I can't talk about yet, but I did just get approached for my first um another commentary because it's a dead kid movie. They were like, "Hey, well, you've probably seen this," and I'm like, "Heck
Yeah.
yeah, I'm getting work because of the dead kid book now." So
Uh,
it's great.
just standing on the shoulders of dead kids.
What else? I think I'm really proud of the essay that I did for the Vinegar Syndrome release of the horrible Dr. Hitchcock because I just
Mm,
had a lot of fun writing about necrophilia and Italian horror films.
yeah.
The Villages of the Damned box set, I did one on the history of like werewolf trials. Like everyone knows about the witch trials, but I got to write about like the werewolf trials, and that was fun. And um, the Black Cat 1 and 2, also Vinegar Syndrome. That one is like all about La Femme Nikita knockoffs and stuff like that. So that was a fun deep dive for me.
The
And
opening scene in Black Cat where she fights that dude in a truck stop,
oh hell yeah,
it's brutal. It's brutal. It's awesome.
it is. That movie's. I'm in the minority. I actually like the second one a little bit better because it's more off the rails. But
I haven't seen it yet. If it's off the rails, I'll like it more.
yeah, there's like weird like skiing stuff going on, and like grandma gets blown away by a clown. It's fun. Um, And then, yeah, I did. Lance and I have started doing some work together on special features. So we have a
Okay.
video essay on Terror Vision's release of Dreamstalker called
Okay.
All Jocks Are Bastards. That was a lot of fun to do.
Awesome.
But yeah, I think those are my highlights. I feel like bad, like I might be leaving something out, but
Well,
oh
you need
shit, I
it.
did a full like video essay for Error 4444 on their release of Run and Kill, which is like one of the in
Oh,
my
hell
book, it's one of the best movies. But the video essay is like 15 minutes long and it's probably like 12 minutes of kids getting wrecked. So if you'd like the book, you would probably like that release and my video
yeah.
essay.
For fans of of the book. That's awesome. Okay. And Run and Kill, I don't know if a standard edition has come out for that yet, but I know they're already
Probably not
shipping.
yet. Yeah,
I know they're already shipping the limiteds. I have it on my shelf. I need to watch that then. Okay. Awesome. What a great intro. You need to start a Patreon and list all the stuff you've done like Sam did. It's growing now.
I don't have anything to contribute outside of what I'm already doing. So
No, that's the biggest thing, right?
I like the amount of work that I have right now. Like a Patreon feels like I'd have to do extra work for people,
Yeah.
and I'm
It
like,
ends up
yeah, I
being a
don't
lot
want
of
to do
work.
that right now. So I'm good, but I appreciate the sentiment though.
Sure, sure, sure. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you very much again. It's approaching 11 p.m. on a Saturday night, so thank you for giving me your time,
Of
and
course.
I wish you wild success with whatever comes next.
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Great. Thanks, Erica.
Thanks.